I thought I'll divide, all our learnings into like, four different parts before I start. Uh, the first part is, the basic learning we went through while we started building the product, launched it, grew it, and started to make money out of it. And the second part was more interesting because we realized that we were building something for the Indian audience. And, when I say India, it was more like Bharat than India. Um, building for them was, there were a lot of nuances of building a product for that sort of a user base. So we'll talk about that. And then the third part is where, we believe that, our product ethos, our culture was a little bit different, which helped us um, grow a little faster than the others out there without spending too much money. So we'll talk a little bit about that. And the last bit is mostly about the future, so which is about building for the next billion internet users. So let me start with how we went from about 5 years ago from almost nothing to more than 60 million downloads of our apps, translating to 15 million MAUs, which is almost like a good amount of lifetime retention. If you can think, 60 million people who ever downloaded our apps are active. 15 of them are active users today on a monthly basis, and 1.5 billion monthly screen views, which gives you a lot ample opportunity to monetize and make money and have some sort of sustainable business. The interesting bit is we did this with practically no marketing spend. So, the first part is about, the life cycle of building a product. And like you can see, you build the product, you acquire users, you grow your user base, you engage with them, and then in the end you start making money. Most of the fundraise happens in the grow and in the growth phase, because that's when you show some sort of hockey stick growth, and you sell a story and you raise money. Um, and the earn happens, unfortunately, very, very late in the lifetime of most product companies. Sometimes it doesn't happen at all, and people have sold their companies. Examples are WhatsApp, et cetera, et cetera. So let me talk about how you build something. So I think the key thing that we realized that was that there needs to be a core action about every product. And like you would have seen, all great products have a core action, and they all started with just one core action. And today, Facebook might be having probably 100 features, but remember that when they started, they only had one. Google has hundreds of products, but they started with just one. So it's important to know that core action. And for us, in the beginning, it was booking a flight. It might look very simple, but making something super easy is super hard, which is what we figured out. And that's what differentiates great products from good products. So we realized that our core action was booking a flight, let's say, for example. And what was important was to realize that the more somebody uses your product or your core action, the more valuable the product becomes for him. Like there's some accrued benefits that come after using your platform, your product. And in our case, it was like management, trip management. We had like one of the best trip management features in our product. Also having a seamless post-booking experience, hand-holding people while they were traveling, getting them alerts, etc. about delays, all those things. And then obviously incentivizing them, because every time you book a flight, you get some points, and those points sit in your wallet, and that also becomes one of the the losses that you make if you leave the platform, because you lose all that loyalty point that you've collected. You lose all your data, your trip data, your saved cards, all of those things. But the key here is that with all the data that a product uses about you, user behavior, what you do, how you interact with the product, what sort of preferences you have, if you can't make use of that data to personalize the product for the end user, then you're not providing him enough accrued benefits, which is what the key is. And then essentially what happens is that there needs to be some virtuous loops as well around your core action. In our case, for example, if you book a flight, we had like a prominent share feature. If you share, then you have new users, and then it goes in a virtuous loop. And similarly, when you book flight, You earn points, which incentivizes you to then burn points to book another flight, and then this. We realized that having a loyalty points was one of the key things that improved user retention by, for example, the retention of our of people who have points in their wallet is about 2.5x of the users who don't have anything in their wallet, which was one of the biggest learnings. So once you build a great product, it's time to go looking for users. Now, you know one of the hard learnings is that acquiring users is easy. There are many forms of there are many channels for acquiring people, but acquiring people who bring in loyalty and high lifetime value is the key, and that's difficult. And you might feel that growing users who do not have who do not complete your core action or do not add um, you know lifetime value is it might feel very good as a top metric. Believe me, in the long run, it's not great. It's almost always better to keep track of how much money you end up making from people you acquire, and it's really important, right? For us, it was our learning was that over a period of time, we realized that for some channels, we were able to break even on the amount of money we spend to acquire new user, and this channel might be different for different people. If I look back when we launched our product, the best channel by far has always been the initial mailing list that we created of all the friends that we had among all the alumni networks that we had worked with. Those people's lifetime value is infinite. They still come and they still book. So overall, usually people think that lifetime value is what you measure over a period of 6 months, 9 months. But those were the kind of users who never went away, who kept on transacting, booking, and kept on giving us revenue. So it really depends, but identify your channels and make sure that you discard the channels which are ineffective. There are tons of channels out there, but in our experience, um, Facebook, Google, Instagram, etc., work best. All those affiliate networks and all those things that are out there. They might look lucrative, they might look cheap as a customer acquisition channel, but eventually in the longer run, they don't work. So that's one of the biggest learnings. Keeping your users engaged is important, and we realize that fortunately today there are lots of tools out there. From the more expensive global tools like Localytics and Mixpanel to more cheaper homegrown tools, which by the way are all at feature parity with these bigger products like CleverTap or Lean Plum, etc. So make sure you have either you have a platform where you know how to engage with people by sending them communication at different phases in their life cycle, or use one of these tools. They make it really super easy to connect with your audience, communicate with them at different phases of their life cycle. We realized that it was important to activate people, not just getting them on board. You need to make sure that they start using your product, and you have to activate them. So it becomes super important to have some sort of onboarding and keeping track of it, making sure that people who end up downloading your app, they also use it. One of the biggest learnings was that we figured out. So we started looking at there are tools as well which creates videos of how your users use your product. On the web there are multiple tools, but even for apps there are tools which you can use. And we were looking at these videos. The activation was really low, and we figured out that our onboarding of the app was where people were stuck many times because you have to swipe. You have these beautiful screens that graphic designers design and think, wow, it looks amazing. But the thing is that users didn't even know how to skip it and how to swipe around and what to do. So that was a big learning, and we realized that half of the people from that screen onward, they were not moving ahead. So it's really important to know you're spending money getting those users. If they don't activate, you've lost them already. Not just that, tracking uninstalls. So what we do is one of the learnings I'll share is that whenever somebody uninstalls, we send them a survey. and the survey has got certain, pointers that we believe might be the reasons for uninstall, and then we make them kind of fill that. It's a small percentage of users who actually fill that survey, but it gives you an idea about why people are uninstalling your product. Um, and it's really, really critical because the D30 retention for most apps today, I can guarantee that it is below 50%. Most apps, okay, unless it's a very, very high engagement, high use case, high frequency app. Now, imagine, and even D1 retention, like, so you lose about 20%, 30% user right off the bat on day one post install. So anybody that you can retain is basically adding to your installs, which means that you have to spend less money on acquiring those users because they were anyway going to go away. So making sure you track uninstalls and you know the reasons and preventing people from uninstalling their apps is really, really important. Sometimes it's just, some sort of an automated mechanism to figure out, how to re-engage with them. If they don't open the app post 3 days of install, you send them a notification saying, how could they engage with the app, what value that, the product brings. If there's a deal running, if you're running a campaign, you can, push that deal. Most of the time it works and people are able to, uh, re-engage with your product. We've also realized that re-engaging across channel works better. So not just a push notification. Unfortunately, push notification has become a blind spot in today's world. And you must be knowing it, how many push notifications you receive every day. So believe me that email and SMSs, they still work even today. So at some point of time, re-engagement, communication across these platforms also helps, and it's important. And lastly, but most importantly, figure out a way to make money from that core action. Like if there's a business model behind the core action, nothing like it. If there is no core business model, transactional business model, then obviously you need to rely on ads. But then for that you need to be, having a scale where making money from ads makes sense because you can't really piss off your users, which means that you need to have decent enough screen views in order to make, substantial amount of money from ads. In our experience, if you are making money from transactions, um, it's really, really critical to look at your transactional funnel in depth and go down to every screen, look at the videos, look at every screen. We used to figure out that just a small change in color on one of the payment pages was resulting in, at our scale, about 50 to 100 more transactions on a given day, which starts to matter at a certain scale. So you might want to optimize your funnel end to end completely before you reach a scale where it starts to hurt. Because then if you don't, then you're actually building on a leaky bucket. You're spending money, you're getting more traffic, more users, and they're not transacting because your transactional funnel is broken. When it comes to ads, again, the usual suspects. Uh, we found it best to monetize from people like Google and Facebook. But the biggest learning is that you have to get creative with ads. You just can't put a banner and think that's going to work. So you have to be very, very creative. You have to look at the user journey of how people are using their product, and ads is like a product. If it's not adding value inside that user journey, more often than not, you're not going to get those sort of CTRs and eCPMs that you want from your product. So, but more importantly, native is the way to go. I think that's already, the verdict is out on that. Anything non-native will not work. So, you need to make sure that your ads are all native and deeply integrated in your product UX. Only then you will be able to scale, you'll be able to make money, and you will not be destroying user experience, more important.